Well, good morning and welcome again to the latest webinar from Chapman Robinson & Moore Accountants in Oxford. We're delighted today to have with us a fantastic speaker, international sales and marketing leader, coach and speaker, Dylis Guyan. I've worked with Dylis going back a number of years ago, and since I've followed Dylis and her content and what she shares. I've asked Dylis to speak at events and conferences that I've organised in the past. So I know today that she's going to share with us some fantastic content, some content that I know from experience that people have taken away, embraced and made a difference to their sales and marketing. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dylis. I'm going to just share my screen with her and hand over to Dylis so that Dylis can run her webinar, run the content for you.
Okay, that's fantastic. Can you hear me, Mike? And can you see my slides okay?
I can't see your slides at the moment, so that's my slides.
How about that? Can you see them, Mike?
No, not yet.
Oh dear. Right, let me have a look. Show my screen.
That's it. There we go.
Got it?
I can see your screen now. That's the one. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Dylis.
Fantastic. Good morning. Thank you very much, Mike, for that lovely introduction, and thank you for inviting me onto, to this webinar to share with your audience. I'm absolutely delighted. So welcome everyone to Attract Your Ideal Client with Ease with me, Dylis Guyan. No Welsh, no French connection. I'm actually from the northeast of England, but I've lived in Oxford for 30 years. As you can hear by this cultivated Oxfordshire accent. And I will share with you that I've been back to my hometown this week, and I can even hear the Geordie accent myself getting broader. And when I came home, my friend said to me, "It's well seen, you've been back up to Newcastle." So I hope you enjoy these dulcet Geordie tones. So without further ado, let's crack on with this webinar, Attract Your Ideal Clients with Ease. Mike, I'm not able to move my slides, so I think you probably need to click another button there for me. Can you hear me, Mike? Brilliant. Okay, so I would like you to start by just imagining that you have prospective clients coming to you because you are seen as the trusted expert, that you have a diary full of appointments with people you love doing business with, and that you are giving more clients the opportunity to benefit from your product or service, and of course at the same time making more money than you've ever made before. And for those of you who are listening here live, if this is something that you would love, please just type in the box there, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So by the end of our time together, I'm going to share with you the 3 biggest mistakes that even smart business owners make that keep sales stagnant and profits paralyzed. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how to avoid those costly mistakes, because I'm going to give you some easy to follow practical strategies that you can use immediately to attract your ideal clients and to be positioned as that trusted expert, to have that diary full of appointments and have more of your clients benefiting from your product or service. And I just want to share with you really something that's extremely important, and that is that your customers are changing. They are much more discerning, much more demanding now, and they want much more for their money. No longer can you just rock up to a client and demonstrate your product or your service. That's not what they're interested in. They want someone who can bring insights to their business, someone who understands them as a business, understands the world in which they operate, and their clients, their competitors. So this is really critically important, because this change is huge, and particularly with the changes that are going to be coming with artificial intelligence and so on, you have to be positioned as that trusted advisor that can bring those insights. Now, because of this change, it is time for you to raise the bar, because if you don't, your competitors will. So if your phones are no longer ringing or not ringing as much, or customers are not responding to your marketing efforts, or your product or service is not selling as much, or if you just want to move your business up a level, then you are absolutely in the right place today. Because if you want to improve your strategy and you want different results, then you must do things differently and you must improve your strategy. Because if you continue doing what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. So it's all about change and doing things differently. And I would just like to demonstrate change with you for a moment. So for those of you listening, if you've got a watch on, could you please pop it onto the other wrist? And if you haven't got a watch on, then just write your name with the other hand, with your other hand, not the one that you would normally write with. And I'll just give you a minute or so just to do that. And I know that some of you will just get it popped onto that other wrist, no problem. Others may find it difficult to make that change, to get it over on the other wrist. And when it's there, how do we feel? What do we want to do? And it feels uncomfortable and we want to change it back to the other wrist. And this is exactly the same with any kind of change, is that sometimes it's difficult to make the change, but once we've made it, it feels uncomfortable because it's not our normal way of doing things. And because of feeling uncomfortable in that way, we want to revert back to what we were doing before and revert back into our comfort zone. So if I wanted you to continually wear your watch on the other wrist or write with your other hand, I would have to say, and let's just use the watch, I would be saying to you, where's your watch? And I would be getting you to move it over back onto that other wrist, back onto the other wrist. And eventually you would get up one morning and you would just put that watch on the other wrist without thinking about it, because that would be your normal, the way you would operate. That would have become your new comfort zone and your new habit. It's exactly the same with some of the things I'm going to share with you today. May feel initially a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to ask you to understand that that's how change feels, and it's about just doing it and doing it and doing it until it becomes your way of working. So before I get into the meat of things, may I just take a few minutes to share my background with you, just so that you've got context of who I am and why I am maybe worth listening to for the rest of this webinar. As I mentioned before, my name is Dylis Guyan, and if you cut me in two, I've got sales and marketing running through me like a stick of rock. It's just what I have always done. So I started my career in the bank and then left and had my children, went back on a part-time basis, and then was approached by the financial services arm of Barclays, and they asked me if I'd like to become a financial advisor, which I did. And I absolutely loved it. I was like an evangelist. I was like the Billy Graham of financial services, getting out there and giving people the opportunity to put a financial safety net in place in case their income stopped for whatever reason. And I was promoted after 9 months to a field sales manager, and then I was promoted to regional director, where I was managing 70 advisors and 7 field sales managers. And again, I just loved it. I was in my element, and we were always in the top 5% in the country. And in 1999, in fact, we were top in the country. And then my world just absolutely fell apart. My boss, who'd been my boss for 7 years, and I really respected him, I really liked him, and I learned lots from him, just out of the blue started this awful harassment campaign. So in the January, we were at the conference winning everything across the board, and by the April, May, he started this awful undermining campaign of harassment. And to cut a long story short, I couldn't fix it. So I thought I have two options. I either put up and shut up, or I get out and do something different. And in my wisdom, that was what I did. I thought, right, I'm leaving and I'm going to set up as a sales and sales management consultant. And I literally went from boardroom to bedroom. And I'm not going to pretend it was an easy transition. There were many times I cried over my desk, but I knew that I had to make it work. I was a single parent with 2 teenage children, and I had to keep a roof over their head. So I started with my written plan and my goals, and decided who I was going to work with, who did I want to work with. And as my background was in financial services, I decided to go straight into the blue chip market with financial services companies. And, you know, there was no social media or networking at that time. I literally started with my list of clients that I wanted to do business with, and so from the yellow pages, and then I would get onto the telephone and speak to gatekeepers and create a relationship with the gatekeeper, and eventually get through to decision makers. And in fact, in the first month, I got a contract with Allied Dunbar, Zurich as is now. I went on to work with Norwich Union, Barclays, Barclaycard, Thornton's Chocolates. I did a big managed sales management program there. Royal Mail, Parcel Force, Lombard International, Generali Bank. So I've worked around the world really with these big corporate companies, helping them to increase the sales. And about 5 years ago, I decided to change my business model, because I think I'm 27, but clearly from my picture that I'll just flick back to there, well, it doesn't want it there, you can see I'm clearly not 27. So I decided that I would change my business model, and I would bring my skills and knowledge to the SME market. So businesses who are selling to bigger businesses but don't have a sales and marketing department or training department to help them with their sales efforts. And so now I run workshops, I've got private coaching clients. I still do some in-house work with bigger SMEs, and I also have got online programs that people can access. So I'm as happy doing this as I was in financial services, and in fact now I have forgiven my boss, because I would never have achieved what I've achieved and be where I am today without that awful experience that I went through. So actually that's quite a big learning experience, not just for me, but for me to share with you. You know, when you find yourself in a position where you're struggling or you don't know what to do next, just stop and look at your options and say, right, what options have I got? Which path am I going to take? And then just get onto it and plan it out, and, you know, make that step and be brave. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that with you. And now let's get into what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to look at the top 3 mistakes that even smart business owners make that keep sales stagnant and profits paralyzed, and how to avoid them. And I'm going to give you these mistakes in reverse order. So 3, 2, 1. And mistake number 3 is people will give up too soon. So business owners who are doing their own selling, or salespeople, will give up too soon. And what I mean by that is that many people will send out one piece of marketing material. So it might be an email, it might be a direct mail piece, it might be a video, whatever it is, but they get no response and they give up. And if you give up too soon, you will become the victim of burnout, and you'll dread the next working day. But worse than that, you run out of prospective clients to contact. But I understand how it's easy to think that your prospective clients aren't interested. So what I'd like to do is share with you a personal experience of mine, and then I'm going to give you some statistics that show you how important it is that you mustn't give up too soon. So my own personal experience took place a number of years ago, and I received an email from a company in America asking me to a 3-day conference. And I actually read the email because the subject line caught my attention, and I read it, but that was as much as I did, because I was never going to go to America from the content of one email. So I just deleted it. But then I got another couple of emails. I got a direct letter from America. I got a postcard, and then I got a phone call. And every time I received a piece of marketing material, it made me move forward and be more interested, and started to consider the opportunity of going. And on that last phone call, I actually said yes. And so, and my husband came with me as well. So we paid for tickets for 2 of us. There was 2 flights, the hotel, and all of the associated costs to go to this 3-day event in Florida. And I would never, ever have considered doing that had I not had these multiple touches of marketing material, which every piece talked about me, and not me personally, but my situation, my problems that could be solved, and the benefits that it would bring me of going to this event. And it was that moved me to say yes. So that's a real good example of multiple contact. But then I want to show you this. And this is some research that was done by a guy called Chet Holmes. He wrote The Ultimate Sales Machine. It's a brilliant book if you're interested in getting it. That's Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine. And what he said is that there are 67% of prospective clients that you may be ignoring. So I'm going to go through this and explain it to you. So at the top, we've got 3% who are actively looking to buy. So these are the people who have decided that they need either a product or a service. They are researching the possibilities of who they might select, which provider they might select. So these are the people where you will receive leads, inbound leads from these people who are interested. But the problem with this is that they will very often, or you may very often, get into a price war with these prospective clients because they are looking around and they're making comparisons. So that's the 3% at the top. The bottom 30% in that red band, no, they're not interested. They're very happy with a similar product or service to yours, or they're not in a position to need it. They're not interested and probably won't be. That's not to say never. I have seen people buy from this segment, but generally speaking, they're not interested. If we go back up to the top again and we look at that 7% in the green, they're open to buying, but not looking yet. So an example of this could be a lady who's expecting a baby and she's driving a sports car, and she knows when she has the baby that she's going to have a new car because she can't put the baby on the parcel shelf. So she's in the market for buying your product or service, but not looking. But if you can start and be marketing to this lady, let's say you were selling cars and you were marketing to this lady, then you would create that top of mind thinking. You would create the relationship between you. And when she's ready to buy, it would be you that she would think of. And a great example of this actually is DFS, the sofa people. And, you know, they've always got a sale on. And actually, we do know that. But if we're thinking of a sofa, they will certainly come to mind. Now, they might not be the people you want to buy from, but they will certainly be in your mind because they are always touching you, metaphorically speaking, and getting that brand awareness out there. In the next band, you've got 30% who are not thinking about it. And an example of this that I always talk about is my son-in-law, in fact, who is a partner in a solicitor's office. And he's often telling me about his printers that get paper jams, the ink runs out quickly, and they're a pain in the neck. And when I said to him, well, why don't you change the printers or do something different. He said, oh, we haven't time to think about that. We're too busy. And there are many of your clients who would be, or prospective clients who will fit into that category, who need what you've got because it would improve their lives, help them to achieve their target or whatever it is, but they're too busy with everything that's going on around them to think about that. So again, they need your marketing material so that they can read it and they can relate to it and say, goodness, yes, that's me, that's us who's in this position, and it will move them towards taking action. Then in the next 30%, you've got that purple band. Excuse me one second. In the purple band, these are people who don't think they're interested, or it may even be that they don't even know about your product or service. And an example I use of this is my husband, who suffered from noise-induced hearing loss from the years he was in the Marines. And so the television has to be on 42 volume, or we have the subtitles on. That's what we used to do, until he got some marketing material from a company introducing him to TV ears. And they're like a little headset that you put into your ears, and it's wireless, linked into your television. Well, it changed everybody's lives. It's fantastic. So we don't have to have the volume blaring, and we don't have to have the subtitles on, and he sits very happily hearing the sound. But he didn't even know about that product or service until someone got in touch with him to educate him about it. And so this is the same for yourself. You could be missing that 67% of prospective clients in that middle band because you're only sending maybe one piece of marketing material to them and then giving up. So it's about educating them in that marketing material. And I'm going to show you in mistake number 2 how to do that, the content that needs to go into that marketing and the messages that you're going to get out there. So please take that on board. And I guess what I'm saying to you here is that if you are just sending out one piece of marketing material, or 2, or maybe even 3, it needs more than that. If you think back to my story that I've related to you about my own experience with that American company. But there are some more statistics, and these are from the National Sales Executive Association, that says 48% of people never follow up with a prospective client. That is unbelievable, really. However, I've had an exact example of this just last week, when in a group I was asking if there was anybody there who was an expert in this data, the new data protection laws that are coming out, and there was a number of people who said, yes, me, I am. And one lady, there was a lady there, and I said to all of them, please drop me a direct message with your details and we can communicate. Only one lady did. And she's now actually been a guest on my podcast. She's going to do some work for me and speak to a group of people. So that proved to me that actually there was more than 48% of those people didn't follow up with me. 25% of people never make a second contact, and 12% of people only make a maximum of 3 contacts and stop. The research also showed that only 2% of sales are made on the first contact, and 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So if you're only making contact with your prospects once, then you are potentially leaving 98% of business on the table. So my question to you is, how many are you losing because you are giving up too soon? And if you want to pop something in the comments there, if you have any questions about this, please just pop them in the comments and Mike will ask the question to me. Okay, so here's what we do. We start by creating a written contact strategy, and it's really important that you have this written down. It gives you clarity, it gives you the steps you're going to take, it gives you some order rather than maybe jumping from one thing to another. And in this contact strategy include both online and offline. You know, you've got all sorts of opportunities for being able to make contact with prospective clients. You've got social media, you've got direct mail, email, telephone, you've got video, networking. There's a plethora of opportunities. And in fact, at the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you a link to a download that will give you 21 ways to find your ideal client and to help you to get in touch with them. So once you've got those activities written down in your plan, and vary your methods of follow-up and highlight different benefits. So, you know, you're not going to be talking about the same thing in each piece of your marketing material. You're going to highlight those different benefits. And of course, customers will remember you when they think of your product or service. So that's mistake number 1. So remember, never assume the answer is no. Often what you perceive as a no is really not right now. And of course, if you make contact with people, and I do implore you to pick up the phone. If you're going to do some social media contact, direct mail, email, maybe text message, you must be picking up the phone as well. Because when you pick up the phone, and if you do get a no, and you accept it's a no, not right now, then you can arrange to keep in touch with them and have a call back date and so on. So you need to be logging this information. And as Brian Tracy said, sometimes your greatest asset is simply your ability to stay with it longer than anyone else. Okay, so that's mistake number 1. Now let's have a look at mistake number 2. So when businesses are trying to attract new customers, their message is often either focused on the features of their product, or it's all about me, or it's all about my company. So here's some real examples that I took from some websites. We're solicitors who've been in business for 25 years. Well, who cares if you've been in business for 25 years? You may have been very mediocre. Now, if you added something onto the back of that, and I'd like you to write down these 3 words, please, which means that. So we are solicitors who've been in business for 25 years, which means that we fully understand your business, and you can relate then to some of the problems that you know that your ideal clients are experiencing. And that's what makes the difference. But just telling someone you've been in business for 25 years means nothing. It has no impact. Here's another one. I love this. We specialize in visioning, team building, and strategy development. Now, can you imagine any business that's struggling with some problems, and they wake up, you know, that 3 a.m. sweat where you're worrying about something in your business, and you think, I know what we need. We need some visioning. I don't think there's anybody ever would think, I need some visioning. You need to speak in terms or in a language that will resonate with your prospective clients. And those words don't resonate with your clients. Again, I'm going to show you how to do this shortly. And here's another one. We're a financial services company who deliver a responsive service, supply with commercially sound proactive advice, build long-term relationships, and provide value for money. Now, can you imagine anyone who's thinking, I really need to sort out a company pension? For example, I need to get something sorted out to retain staff because we're giving them some additional benefits within the business. Their thought process wouldn't be, I know we need to have some commercially sound proactive advice. It just absolutely doesn't resonate. So as I said before, the words you use have to resonate with what's going on in the head of your prospective clients. Because your customers don't really want to spend money on your product or service. They want the results that your product or service will bring. They want their problems solved. They want to achieve their objectives. And as I mentioned earlier, I was in financial services, and my clients didn't want a pension policy lying in the drawer, a life assurance policy, whatever it was. They wanted a financial safety net that would replace their income if it stopped for whatever reason. Something that would allow them to pay their bills, send the kids to private school, go on the holidays, and would allow them to meet all of their financial commitments. So think about, your message has got to be focused on, let me start again. If your message is focused on you or your company and your product or service, then your potential client won't read it, listen to it, or buy it. Your marketing messages must answer the questions that are bothering them. They must answer the questions that are going on in their head. So here's what to do. So step one, make a list of the problems your clients might be experiencing now or could experience in the future without your product or service. And I'm just going to go back a step and just mention ideal client again. When you know who your ideal client is or clients, then you can get into their shoes and you can understand what their problems are. So list out the problems on one side of your paper, and on the other side, write down the impact of those problems, the impact it's having on them and their business. I'll give you an example of this. There was a business I went to talk to initially, and they were losing a lot of staff. And so that was the problem. They were hemorrhaging staff. And I talked to them about the impact and said, so what effect is this having on the business? And they said, well, we've got to pay for advertising, we've got to collect CVs, we've got to have someone in the business sit and go through all of these CVs and then interview, and then we've got to select, and we've got to then train them and put them back into the workplace. But one of their other problems was that the morale was low. So, it was like a never-ending circle because these people were going back into this environment of low morale. So I said, how much does it cost you then to recruit a new person? And it was huge. It was huge. It was nearly £2,000. And then we worked out how many people they were losing each year. That was also huge. And when we multiplied the two together, it was immense. The cost to the business was immense. So to have me come in and train the people as to how to do things properly and take the right steps, it was a no-brainer. So doing this exercise, obviously you're not going to get those finer figures that I've just shared with you there, but it starts to get you thinking about what are the problems that your ideal clients have, what's the impact of those problems, and use the words which means that. So you take a problem, which means that, it will give you an impact. Put which means that on the back of that impact, and it will give you a deeper impact. And all of this preparation will help you in two ways. It will help you to write really strong, powerful marketing messages. It will also help you to prepare questions when you have a face-to-face meeting with that prospective client. So that's step one. Step two, address your client's problems in all of your marketing efforts. So the need to address these 4 elements. You must grab their attention in that first paragraph. And there are 3 ways that I use of doing this. One is I either use some research and some numbers, and I put that in the first paragraph, or it might be a trigger event. So you might have a company who's they've acquired another company, or they're making redundancies, they've got a new CEO, whatever it might be. That could be a trigger event. And thirdly, a referral. Referrals are fabulous in terms of being able to get into companies, because if we are going on holiday, where do we look? TripAdvisor. always. And that's really a referral mechanism, because we're looking at reviews from others. So you've got to grab their attention first of all. So it's like, why should I read or listen to you? Is that first paragraph. And then you need to raise their interest. You need to light the fire with the problems that you can solve, and then create the desire with the benefits that that will bring. And then lastly, a call to action. And I see this missing so many times. You have to tell people what to do next. So, you know, it could be call me on, or email me at, or I will call you. Generally, I will give people the opportunity to email me or phone me, but I always put a line in there that says, alternatively, I give you a call on Thursday at 8:45. So attention, interest, desire, action. All of your marketing, whether it's your website, a direct mail piece, an email, your telephone call, whatever, should all follow those 4 elements. So talk to prospects in terms of problems you can solve, how you can meet their objectives, enhance their lives, or prevent pain. So change your focus from you and become totally customer focused. I cannot stress this enough. Please, if you go back and look at your website or your marketing material or the conversations that you have with your clients, don't be talking about product or service. That comes right at the very end. When you've done all of your marketing, you've got your one-to-one meeting, you've asked questions, you've found out where they are, and of course you understand, because you understand them and the world in which they're operating, so that you can really bring those insights and ask them insightful questions. When you've got all of that, then you bring in the solution right at the end. I think you probably can gather I'm a little bit passionate about this, but this will make the difference to you. It will be a massive shift for you in terms of the successes that you achieve going forward. You know, and this is about getting that watch on the other wrist, remember. It might feel uncomfortable to start with. So dump the feature selling and start solution selling, and become that trusted expert and start attracting clients instead of having to chase them. Now, there is something else I just want to mention at this point. I was speaking at a business expo this week, and of course with a live audience I can interact and get feedback from them. And when I asked them how comfortable they felt with, it wasn't the content of the marketing, it was the multiple contacts, and they said, we don't really feel that comfortable making multiple contacts. And I asked them why, and they said, because, you know, we would feel pushy. And you would be seen as pushy if everything that you put forward to them is about product. But it's not pushy when you talk about problems that you can solve and the benefits that you bring. And the other thing I want to share with you is that you have a duty to give your prospective clients the opportunity to say yes or no, not right now. Because if you don't, you are leaving them in a position where they're having to struggle with those problems. So take my husband again. If that company hadn't sent him some, you know, multiple marketing messages about these TV ears, he would have been left struggling trying to hear the television. Now, as it happens, we've now got some state-of-the-art hearing aids which have transformed his life. That's totally irrelevant, but I thought I'd just share that with you. But I hope you're getting the message that it's your duty to get out and give your clients, prospective clients, the opportunity to say yes or no, not right now, and then asking them if you can keep in contact with them and having that next date when you're going to give them a call. And in the meantime, send them some relevant information, links to some articles or articles that you have, or infographics, anything that you find that would be beneficial, you can send it over to them, and it's another touch. Okay, so again, any questions, please pop them in the box and we can answer them at the end. So just as a recap, don't give up too soon. 80% of sales are made between the 5th and 12th contact, and all of your marketing messages should be customer focused. Okay, so mistake number 1, I see this over and over again, is that there is no marketing strategy. So let me just explain what I mean by marketing strategy. Marketing is lead generation. It's attracting more of your ideal clients. It's not everybody. Your ideal clients with messages that resonate with them. A strategy is a method or plan chosen to bring about that desired result. And the tactics are things like blogging, social media, making phone calls, placing ads, sending emails, networking videos, whatever you choose as a tactic to get your marketing message out. Because really this is about getting the right message out to the right person in the right way. And this is what I see missing. And Seth Godin said, the right strategy makes any tactic work better. The right strategy puts less pressure on executing your tactics perfectly. And without a strategy, your tactics will just be a lot of random activity without purpose. And you will end up, you'll get lost in the noise that's out there. It's a very noisy world out there. But worse still, you'll get the same results as you've always got, and you'll become overwhelmed and dejected, and you will have exactly what you have now, but you will degrade the energy and enthusiasm that you had for your business. Remember when you very first started out and how excited you were? And I'd like you to think about the reasons why you started your business. And I'm sure it wasn't to be worrying about the peaks and troughs of cash flow. And sadly, 80% of business failures are down to poor cash flow. And that was the same for my dad. That's my dad. That's his D-Mob coat from the army. So that was when he was a younger man. I've got this picture in my office here, right in front of me, in fact. And I'd just like to share his story with you. He was self-employed. He was brilliant at what he did. He was an electrical engineer. Expert at what he did, but he wasn't expert at bringing in customers to his business. And I've told this story so many times, it still gives me a little catch in my throat. Eventually, he went bankrupt, and we had the official receivers in. I was just a young girl, I was just in my teens, and I remember the day as if it was yesterday. And they literally itemize and value everything, and that was what they did. And they were very kind to my mother, and they said, if you can raise £300, I mean, gosh, how silly is that these days, but it was a long time ago. If you can raise £300, you can buy back some of your things. And that was what she did. She borrowed £300 off my grandma and bought back some of our things. But my father, he lost everything because he lost his business. He lost his employees, he lost his vehicles, he lost the house, and he lost his family, because the stress of all of this was so great that, and he was a drinker anyway, but it just sent him absolutely over the edge. And we left without him, and he ended up living in my grandfather's shed for a week, and then a caravan for 3 years. And then him and my mother eventually got back together, and I remember him saying, if only I could turn the clock back. And he didn't talk about becoming the trusted expert or attracting ideal clients. What he said was, if only I could have brought more people through the door. If only I could have brought more people through the door. And this is why I am so passionate about what I do, because if I can prevent one person going through what we went through, because actually he died at 52 in bed next to my mother. It was such a tragic waste. And if I can prevent that, then one person, I'll have done a good job. And this is why I still do what I do. And I'm so passionate about what I do. And just as an aside, you really need to work out why you do what you do to give you the passion that you need. So no matter what business you are in, you must also be in the business of sales and marketing. That is your lifeblood, bringing clients into your business, giving them the opportunity to benefit from your product or service, and keep that pipeline full with constant activity. So let me share a basic strategy with you that you can put into place in your business. I'm just checking the time here. Yeah, I've still got loads of time. So first off, write a clear plan for your business. Please write it down. So set your goals, break those down into bite-sized chunks and have a clear plan written. And Harvard Business School carried out some research from students who've been through the school, and they followed up years later, and only 3% had a written plan, a written strategy for their business. But they, in fact, made more than the other 97% who didn't have that written plan. So for that reason, you know, it's important to do it. And as I said earlier, it'll give you clarity. It'll give you the road that you're going to take. Now, that doesn't say you can't course correct. Of course you will be. But at least it gives you that starting point and it clears it out of your head onto paper. Secondly, define and research your ideal client and create a list. So have a look at your client base, take out your best clients, the ones that you love working with, the ones that value you, the ones who pay promptly, the ones who will give you repeat business, referral business, and so on. Take out those best ones and then profile them and look at what are the commonalities between all of your best clients, and then start and look for more who are like them. Look for more businesses who've got those same commonalities and create a list. So that's your ideal client list. And I would encourage you to start with a list of 50 and then keep adding to it ideal clients. And of course, you've got a LinkedIn that you can start and search for these particular types of ideal client that you want to work with. Once you've got that, get into the shoes, do the exercise of the problem's impact, do the benefits of change, and then create your compelling marketing messages to include those 4 essentials of attention, raise their interest, create the desire, and the call to action. And then have a multiple marketing strategy and just think, right, how am I going to get my message out? What elements am I going to use? And you don't use them all. And again, when I talk to my clients, I say, look, get really great at 3 or 4. Even if you got great at 2 or 3, it's better than just a one touch of maybe an email to somebody or maybe 2 emails. Think about what your strategy is going to be. Personally, my favorite strategy is connecting on LinkedIn. I give them something free, you know, so I'll give them maybe what I'm going to give you, in fact, 21 surefire ways to find your ideal client. Then send an email, send a direct mail piece, and make a phone call. If you get an answer machine, leave a voice message. And in that, cover your 4 points of attention, interest, desire, call to action. And the call to action on a voicemail could be for them to call you or that you will call again. And always make sure that you follow that up. But whatever your multiple marketing strategy is, have that written in your plan. Then you get to the point where somebody reads your marketing material, they love what you've said, it's resonated with them, it's relevant to them, and they've put up their hand and said, I need to hear more from you and I want to know more. And remember, in these marketing messages, if you're sending it in the email, it's 90 words. This is not one piece. This is give them enough to want to know more. Once you're in front of them, whether it be online, because, you know, very often we do Skype or have Zoom calls. Look at us today. We're here and, you know, we're doing it all through technology. And it might be that you have your meetings in this way. But when you have that effective sales conversation, it's not, again, about product dumping. It's about positioning yourself with credibility, and then asking insightful questions to take a person from a position of interest to a position where they want to buy from you, because when they answer the questions, they themselves realize that it's the position they're in is untenable and it can't continue. So they're much more likely to buy from you. And it's at that point that you can then present your solution. Then you can talk about product. If you do it before that, I call it peeing too soon. You're talking about product too soon. So have me on your shoulder going, Dylis, I'm peeing too soon. Once you've got that had that effective sales conversation and you've secured the business, you must keep up that relationship in terms of implementing a repeat and referral strategy. So keep the relationship, go the extra mile so that people will talk about you, will refer you, and they will most certainly come back to you. And just on referrals, this is as simple as saying, who do you know who? Who do you know who is in a similar position to you, who I could help in the way I've helped you? So referrals is about remembering to ask. So I'll just ask the question out there. How many of you are you asking for referrals? Just pop a little something into the box there. And lastly, track and measure your results. It's critical. It's ridiculous if you are doing things and you don't know whether it's working or not. You need to track and measure. Anything that's not working, stop it or refine it. And if it is working, keep on doing it and doing it and doing it, and keeping that pipeline full of both appointments and sales meetings. So that's your basic strategy. Any questions, just put them in the box there. So if you put all of this into place, you will have a life of abundance, you will grow your business, and you will live your life stress-free. Because when you've got that process that's working like a well-oiled wheel, then it does make life so much easier, rather than this stress of jumping from maybe one activity to the other and getting involved in things that maybe you shouldn't be involved in, that you could delegate out to someone else. That's another webinar all on its own. But just think about putting this strategy in place and give yourself the life that you wanted when you very first started your business. So I'd like to give you, as I mentioned earlier, two things to help you grow your business. One is 21 surefire ways to find your ideal client, and there's the link. So dylisguyan.com/21-sure-fire-ways/. And I will also give you the opportunity there, if you are so inclined, there's an opportunity to purchase my online program, which is valued at £297, but I'm offering it at £47. It's full of value, and it takes a real deep dive into the marketing piece that we've talked about today. And the other thing I would like to offer is for you to join my private Facebook group, which of course is free, called Inspired Selling. And that's a place specifically for business owners and salespeople who are selling to bigger businesses. And it's a place where you can collaborate with others, you can ask questions, you can post your wins. And a mentor of mine many years ago said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's the whole purpose of my Inspired Selling Facebook group. I want to inspire you to go out and spread the message and expose yourself, metaphorically speaking, to give more people the opportunity to benefit from your product or service, and also for you to inspire your prospective clients to take action with you because of the way that you are conducting yourself with them. So thank you very much for your time. My email, if you want to email me, is dylis@dylisguyan.com. If you've got any questions, or if you want a copy of these slides, and I'm sure Mike will accommodate you there. Anything I can do to help you to be better at what you do, then I'm very happy to do that. Thank you so much. Hello, Mike. Are you still there?